For 20 years, my mom played the tragic, abandoned wife to absolute perfection. She was a master storyteller, spinning this narrative so well that everyone just bought it. She claimed she was left with nothing but the clothes on her back and a kid to feed. She'd tell her sob story to literally anyone who'd listen, from grocery store cashiers to neighbors over the fence. She painted my dad as this absolute monster. She told everyone he packed his bags in the dead of night, drained their accounts, and just walked away. Growing up, I believed every single word she said. I mean, how could I not? She was my mom, and she performed her heartbreak with these raw, convincing tears. I felt like it was my ultimate duty to protect her. She'd make this grand show of counting pennies at the kitchen table. She'd sigh so heavily, just making sure I saw the pure exhaustion on her face. It was all a calculated performance to make me feel the weight of our supposed poverty. Whenever I asked for a new toy or a field trip slip signed, she'd look at me with these tear-filled eyes. She'd say she was trying her best, but my dad had left us with absolutely nothing. She made me feel like asking for basic necessities was this massive burden. Because of her constant manipulation, she cultivated this deep, simmering resentment inside me. I directed all my childhood anger toward the man who was supposedly responsible for our misery. I really hated my dad for what I thought he'd done to us. My dad, on the other hand, was this quiet, unassuming guy. He never defended himself against her accusations. He never called her a liar, and he never spoke a single bad word about her in front of me. He just took the blame in complete silence. When I visited him on his weekends, he lived in this tiny, sparsely furnished apartment. The walls were bare, and the furniture was super worn down. I honestly thought his rundown place was proof of his bad choices. He drove an old, beat-up car and wore shoes with literal holes in them. But he just smiled, made me blueberry pancakes on Saturdays, and asked about my homework. He loved me with this steady warmth that I completely misunderstood. For a long time, I mistook his silence for guilt. I thought he didn't fight back because he knew she was right. I just assumed he was trying to make up for the terrible thing he'd done to us. But as I got older, the pieces of my mom's grand tragedy just didn't fit together. It all started with this one memory. It was like this weird sensory echo I couldn't shake. I was 6 years old. I remember the smell of this cheap vanilla car air freshener. It was sickly sweet, trying to cover up stale cigarette smoke. And I remember the scratchy fabric on the back seat of a car that definitely wasn't my parents'. And I remember the bags. 2 heavy, dark green canvas duffel bags shoved under my feet. The zipper on one of them was slightly open. Even in the dim streetlights, I could see thick bands of paper wrapped around stacks of cash. And then there was the man. He definitely wasn't my dad. He had slick dark hair and a heavy leather jacket that creaked when he moved. He wore this chunky silver watch that kept catching the amber streetlights. My mom was sitting in the passenger seat next to him, and she was laughing. It wasn't that tired, broken laugh I grew up hearing every day. It was this breathless, reckless laugh. The laugh of someone who just got away with something massive. She turned around to check the back seat. When she saw my eyes were wide open, her smile instantly vanished. She looked completely, utterly panicked. She reached back and put her hand over my eyes. She whispered in this tight, panicked voice. She told me to go back to sleep. She said, "This is just a dream. Close your eyes." For years, I actually thought it was a dream, just some weird nightmare from the trauma of my parents splitting up. Because the very next morning, I was was told my dad abandoned us in the middle of the night. But the older I got, the more that memory refused to stay buried. The smell of vanilla, the silver watch, the canvas bags. It was all way too real to just be my imagination. The real unraveling of her lifelong lie started when I was 17. I was applying for colleges and needed my birth certificate. My mom was working late, so I went into her bedroom to check her filing cabinet. I was just looking for my birth certificate, but the way the back of that drawer was packed felt deliberate, like she was hiding something she never wanted me to find. Buried under years of old tax returns, I found this heavy metal lockbox. My curiosity totally got the better of me. I mean, why hide a cheap gray box that carefully? I grabbed a flathead screwdriver from the garage. I wedged it under the latch and just pushed. I honestly expected to find old photos or maybe some emergency cash. Instead, I found thick stacks of old bank statements, and right beneath them, official court documents. The whole narrative I'd been spoon-fed my entire life was sitting right there. The statements showed a massive withdrawal from their joint savings, $40,000, every cent my dad had saved for a house. And the signature on the slip, it was hers. Then I found the child support records, pages and pages of them. He hadn't abandoned us. He'd been paying a crippling amount every single month, while she bought new clothes and looked me dead in the eye, calling him a deadbeat. I felt totally sick to my stomach. The puzzle pieces just violently snapped together. The green bags, the guy with the silver watch, the cash. It wasn't a dream, it was a getaway. I ended up at my aunt's house, demanding the rest of the truth. Turns out, that guy in the car was her affair partner. But there's no honor among thieves. He ditched her at a motel and took all the stolen cash with him. When I finally confronted my dad, he didn't even look surprised. I sat at his tiny kitchen table, just bawling. I asked him why he never told me. Why did he let her drag his name through the mud for my entire childhood? He looked up at me, his eyes shining with tears, and he said, "Because she was your mother, and you loved her." He said if he told me the truth back then, it would have destroyed my world. He traded his own reputation just to protect my childhood. That realization changed everything. I stopped playing along with her victim act. When she'd complain about my dad, I'd just stare at her. I stayed totally cold until she changed the subject. I moved out the second I legally could. After that, I got incredibly close to my dad. We spent every free moment together, trying to make up for lost time. I thought the worst was over, but my mom couldn't let it go. Her whole identity was being the victim. When I was 26, my dad met Alina. She was warm, vibrant, and loved him with a genuine kindness. When he finally proposed, I literally cried tears of joy. I was so happy this patient man was getting the love story he deserved. We started planning the wedding, totally unaware of the coming storm. My mom completely lost her mind when she found out. It wasn't enough to ruin his past. She wanted to ruin his future, too. She started calling mutual friends, crying hysterically about how unfair it was. She didn't stop at phone calls. She started posting vague, passive-aggressive statuses on social media about karma and true colors. She was desperately trying to keep the spotlight on her own fake suffering. She even tried to guilt me into boycotting the wedding, saying I was betraying her. I told her to stop right there. I said I was standing by my dad and she needed to drop the act. But delusion is a powerful drug. Because of messy family politics, my mom manipulated her way into getting an invite. It was a massive oversight by a meddling aunt. She had wedged herself into his special day. My dad, always the peacekeeper, just sighed. He said it wasn't worth causing a huge family rift right before the wedding. He told me to ignore her, but I knew she couldn't handle not being the center of attention. The wedding day finally arrived, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was at this gorgeous rustic venue with string lights and overwhelming joy. My dad was glowing, and Elena looked stunning. Everything was perfect. Then the reception started, and my mother made her grand entrance. She sat at a table near the back, wearing a dress that was way too close to white. She was holding court, nursing a glass of red wine, and wearing this expression of brave, tragic suffering. I watched her leaning in, whispering behind her hand to anyone who would listen. I could see the sympathetic nods and pitying looks from the people at her table. She was spinning her web again, making sure the spotlight stayed firmly on her. The anger that had been simmering inside me for years finally started to boil over. I forced myself to hold my tongue, promising I wouldn't ruin my dad's night. Then came the toasts. I gave a speech about how much I loved him and how thrilled I was to see him so happy. The room was just full of laughter and happy tears. The DJ took the microphone back, getting ready for the first dance. And then, my mother stood up from her table. The entire room went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop, and that sudden absence of sound was just deafening. My dad's face went completely pale. Elena reached out and grabbed his hand tightly. My mother walked slowly toward the front of the room, carrying her wine glass. Her face was arranged into this perfect, practiced mask of bittersweet forgiveness. She didn't even ask the DJ for the mic. She just walked right up, gave him a patronizing smile, and pulled it from his hand. She said she knew it was unconventional for the ex-wife to speak. Her voice echoed loudly through the tense room. She gave this little self-deprecating laugh that made my skin crawl. She talked about how seeing this expensive celebration brought up so many memories, and she claimed she felt in her heart that she needed to say a few words. I felt my blood turn to absolute ice. My heart was pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. I started to stand up to stop her, but my dad caught my eye. He subtly shook his head, pleading with me. He was still trying to keep the peace and take the hit from me. She continued, her voice trembling with perfectly rehearsed emotion. She talked about how she raised me entirely alone for 20 years. She claimed she scraped by after being left in the dark with an empty bank account. She was playing the ultimate victim all over again. She paused, letting the heavy weight of her lie settle over the room. A few people who didn't know the truth actually looked at my dad with judging eyes. Then she turned to look directly at him. She had the nerve to say it took a lot of grace to stand there today. She raised her glass in a mocking toast. A few awkward claps broke the silence. My dad stared at the table, looking completely defeated, and my mother smiled this sickeningly sweet, victorious smile. Right then, something inside me just snapped. It was a total collapse of every polite boundary I'd held onto. I wasn't gonna let him take it anymore. I wasn't gonna let her win. I didn't even think. I just moved. I intercepted her halfway across the dance floor. I didn't yell or cause a physical scene. I just stepped right into her path and held out my hand. I told her to give me the microphone. My voice was low, but it had this dangerous edge to it. It was a tone I had literally never heard in myself before. Her fake smile faltered and she tried to brush me off. I stared dead into her eyes and told her to hand it over. I told her if she didn't, I'd physically take it, and it would get ugly. She hesitated, looking around at all the guests staring at us. Trying desperately to keep up her victim act, she reluctantly handed it to me. She hissed at me not to make a scene. I turned my back on her and faced the room. I looked out at this sea of faces. My dad's loyal friends. Elena's confused family. And relatives who had judged him for decades. I spoke into the mic, and my voice was terrifyingly calm. I told them her story about grace and sacrifice was beautifully crafted, but it was a shame that it was an absolute, utter lie. A sharp gasp rippled through the entire room. Behind me, I heard my mother snap my name in a warning tone. I completely ignored her. I told them how I grew up watching my dad quietly take the blame, just to protect a little girl's image of her mother. I looked right at my dad, and he was silently begging me to stop. I wasn't gonna stop. I was ready to burn her whole fake world right to the ground. I looked right at her and told everyone that memory is a funny thing. All the color just drained right out of her face. That smug, fake smile she always wore was completely gone. It was replaced by pure, naked, wide-eyed panic. I told the room I was awake in the back seat the night she claimed my dad walked out. I remembered the vanilla air freshener and those heavy green duffel bags. She took a stumbling step back, like she wanted to just turn and run out the door. But she couldn't. She was completely frozen under the stares of 100 people. I made sure everyone heard me say those bags were stuffed with 40 grand in cash. It was the entire savings account my dad built to buy us a house. Dropping a bombshell, I told them the guy in the driver's seat wasn't my dad. It was some guy she'd been sleeping with, wearing a heavy leather jacket and a silver watch. The silence in that room was absolute. It felt incredibly heavy, kind of like that suffocating air right before a massive thunderstorm breaks. Nobody even dared to move. I drove the final nail into the coffin of her 20-year lie. I said she didn't get abandoned. She stole my dad's savings and tried to run off with her lover. But the guy dumped her and took all the cash, so she had to come crawling back. And instead of facing the consequences, she just invented a tragic story. She pointed the finger at the very man she robbed. For 20 years, my dad paid thousands in child support while she bought new clothes and called him a deadbeat. So, if anyone here wants to talk about grace and true colors, let's make sure we're finally telling the right story. I walked over and set the mic down. The feedback whined and that heavy spell just broke. I turned back to look at her. She was just standing there, completely alone in the middle of the dance floor. Her whole grand illusion, 20 years of careful lies, was just shattered into a million pieces. She opened her mouth, probably to spin another frantic lie. But then she looked at the faces around her. There was zero sympathy left. The same relatives who pitied her were now just staring in absolute disgust. Nobody was willing to listen to her anymore. The gig was up. Without saying a single word, she turned around and grabbed her purse. Her hands were visibly shaking. She practically ran out of the venue. When those heavy wooden doors clicked shut behind her, it echoed in that quiet room. Honestly, it sounded exactly like a judge's gavel coming down. It took a minute for the shock to wear off, but when it did, the whole vibe shifted. The wedding wasn't ruined at all. It was cleansed. Elena's dad walked right up and gave my father this massive, backslapping hug. Pretty soon, the rest of the room followed suit. Relatives who had kept him at arm's length for years were crowding around. They were shaking his hand, apologizing, and wiping away real tears of regret. Eventually, my dad walked over to me. He looked so exhausted, just totally overwhelmed by everything. But for the first time in my entire life, he looked completely free. That crushing weight was finally gone. He pulled me into this incredibly tight hug and just held me. Neither of us said a word. We really didn't need to. 20 years of his silent sacrifice had finally been made right. The DJ put the music back on and the reception slowly came back to life. It wasn't just a wedding anymore. It turned into this massive, long overdue celebration of the truth. We were finally free. I haven't spoken to my mother since that night. Word got around she tried doing desperate damage control the next week. She fired off frantic emails to relatives, claiming I was delusional. She actually tried to convince everyone that my dad had brainwashed me. But nobody was buying it anymore. You can only play the victim for so long before people realize you're the one holding the knife. She ended up alienating the last few family members who even tolerated her. Eventually, she just packed up her stuff and moved to another state. She had to start over somewhere completely new where nobody knew her actual past.
I'm sure she's got a whole new tragic backstory for the people she meets out there. She's probably still playing the deeply wronged woman in whatever wild narrative she's spinning today. But honestly, that's her burden to carry now.
I just don't care anymore. Her lies hold absolutely zero power over me now, and they definitely don't hold any power over my dad. We finally broke free from that toxic cloud she kept over our heads. My dad and Elena are doing incredibly well. They bought this beautiful little house out by a lake. They just live this super quiet, peaceful life now, completely untouched by all that old drama. They travel all the time now, making up for all those years my dad spent sacrificing his own happiness. Seeing him finally get the beautiful love story he always deserved just gives me so much peace. He's finally living for himself. Sometimes the truth isn't something that just comes out naturally. Sometimes you've got to actively drag it into the light, kicking and screaming. It's terrifying, it's messy, and it can blow up your entire world in a matter of seconds. Watching my dad dance with his new wife that night, seeing him smile, a real unburdened smile, I knew it was worth it. Every second of that chaos was worth seeing him free. For 20 years, my mother played the tragic, abandoned wife to perfection. But she forgot one crucial thing about tall tales. Eventually, the truth catches up, and every story ends. I actually went back and burned those old court documents a few months ago. I didn't need the proof anymore. The truth was already out there, living and breathing. When I think about that tiny, dark kitchen my dad used to live in, it honestly feels like a lifetime ago. He spent so long shrinking himself down just to keep the peace. Now, he takes up space. He laughs loud, he cooks huge dinners, and he doesn't apologize for simply existing. It's kind of beautiful watching someone learn how to breathe again. As for me, I had to unlearn a lot of anger. You get so used to carrying this heavy armor around, you forget what it feels like to just walk normally. People ask if I ever miss her. The honest answer is no. I mourn the mom I thought I had when I was a kid, but that woman never actually existed. That memory of the green duffel bags in the back of the car used to haunt me. Now it's just a reminder that my gut was right all along. I wasn't crazy. My dad's hands are still rough and calloused from all those years of hard work, but they don't shake anymore. He's not carrying the weight of her lies on his shoulders. We're building something real now. No scripts, no fake tears, and no playing the victim. Just a family that actually likes each other, built on a foundation that won't crumble. If there's one thing I've taken away from this whole mess, it's that you can't build a life on a lie. The foundation will always rot, no matter how pretty the house looks. So yeah, the truth was brutal. It tore everything down. But looking at us now, I'd strike the match all over again. We're finally free.